2. The length of a rectangle is 3 times the width. The perimeter is 120 meters. Find the length and width. So let's go ahead and draw our rectangle. And then let's translate. So the length of a rectangle is 3 times the width. So the width again is going to be x, and the length is going to be 3x. So I'm going to write out my algebraic expressions. So the length is 3x. Remember, opposite sides are congruent in a rectangle. And then we've got the width is x. And again, opposite sides are congruent in a rectangle. So when I combine like terms, Angela, 3x plus x plus 3x plus x, what do you get? 8x. And what do I set that equal to? Angela? 120. So now, Luke, when you solved for x, what did you find? X equals 15. So we know that the width is 15, and the length is going to be 3 times 15, which is what, everybody? 45. So again, when I go to check, I do 45 plus 45, which is 90, and 15 plus 15, which is 30. And so 90 plus 30 is 120, and it works. Check. Okay? Excellent. All right, let's skip down here to number 4 and talk about a triangle, and then we'll move on to the back. All right, so number 4 says, a triangle has a perimeter of 26 inches. The length of the second side is twice the length of the first side. The length of the third side is less than twice the second side. What are the lengths of each side of the triangle? So here, we know that a triangle has 3 sides, and we're going to have to determine which side is going to be x. So based on the information that they gave us, we have to think about who we don't have that much information about, and we're going to make that side x. So who can raise their hand and tell me which side you think is x? Is it going to be side A, which could be the first side, side B, which is the second side, and side C, which is the third side? Sam Harris? Side A. Okay, so he says we're going to make side A x. Okay, so let's look at what else they say here. The length of the second side is twice the length of the first side. So if side A is the first side, the second side is twice the first side, so 2x. Then it says the length of the third side is 2 less than twice the second. So if this is the second, twice the second, and 2 less than that. So how does that simplify for the third side? How do I simplify that expression? JP? 4x minus 2. So we know that this guy's x, we know that this guy is 2x, and we know that this guy is 4x minus 2. We also know that the perimeter is 26. So let's see if this works. If I combine like terms, everybody, 2x plus 4x, what does that give me? And I only have one constant, so it would be 7x plus 2. Okay? Sorry, 7x minus 2. Okay, and so now I'm going to solve for x. So I'm going to add 2. And that gives me 7x equals 28. And then I'm going to divide by 7. And that gives me x equals 4. So let's see if this works. If x equals 4, side B is going to be 8. And side C is going to be 2 times 4, which is 8. 8 times 2, which is 16. And 16 minus 2, which is 14. And if I did this correctly, all 3 of these should add up to 26. And so that's 12 plus 14, which is 26. Check. Okay, so what we're doing today is we're using our knowledge of equations and our knowledge of translating and setting up to find the missing variable. So let's look at these consecutive word problems. Can someone remind me what consecutive means? What does consecutive mean? We've talked about consecutive one other time this school year. I'll give you an example. 7 and 8 are consecutive numbers. So what does that mean, Sam? They're in numerical order, yes. So this says, number 1, find 3 consecutive integers whose sum is 138. So you've got 3 numbers. Notice how I don't have a chart, so I'm going to make my own. So I've got number 1, number 2, and number 3. So if I had 3 numbers, guys, that would be something like 6, 7, and 8. So let's think algebraically. 6 would be the first number, x. To get to 7, if x is 6, I'd have to add 1. Do you agree? And to get to 8, if x is 6, I'd have to add what? 2. So I've got 3 numbers, 3 consecutive numbers, and I know that their sum is 138. So I know that that's my equals. I also know that that's my equals because it says is. So I can again combine like terms. So everyone, x, and x, and 1 and 2, plus 3. So raise your hand when you've solved for x. Tell me what the first integer is. When you've solved for x, tell me what it is. Raise your hand when you have it. I'm going to wait for a couple more hands to go up. So we know we've got to use the subtraction property of equality, and then we have to use the division property of equality. Okay, let's go with Kaylin. What'd you get? She says 45. Antonio, is that what you were going to say? Okay, so if x is 45, x plus 1 is 46, and x plus 2, everyone, is 47. Now, are these consecutive? And is their sum 138? Yes, so you've done it correctly. Okay? All right, what about the next one? The next one's a little bit different because it says find 2 consecutive odd integers whose sum is 36. So can anyone give me 2 numbers that are odd and that are consecutive? Any 2 numbers in the world that are odd and that are consecutive? Zach? 11 and 13. So can you tell me, if I say that 11 is x, so that would be my first integer, how do I get to 13, Zach, which is my second integer? Okay, I do skip, but if I want to think mathematically, if I say x is 11, how do I get from 11 to 13? You would add 2. So now I know that the sum, or the equals, is 36. So if I combine like terms, guys, how many x's do I have? 2, and my constant? 2. So if I solve here, I'm going to get what? Raise your hand when you found x after you've subtracted 2 and used the subtraction property of equality, and then you've divided by 2 and used the division property of equality. What is x, Carolyn? X is 21. Do we agree? So subtract 2, which is 34. Divide by 2. Wrong one. That's okay. So you get x equals 17. All right. So if x is 17, then x plus 2 is 19. Are these 2 consecutive odd? And is their sum 36? Yes. So for these problems, I always come up with my own examples, and then I use that to come up with the algebraic expressions to set up the equation and solve. Raise your hand if you're with me and you get this. Awesome.